welcome to the Movie Overload podcast, where we will be covering 100 essential films from A Trip to the Moon to Parasite and everything in between.
Except for that guy.
That what was his name?
He doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I don't
Dare
know.
not say it.
Something.
Woody Allen.
Ew, fuck that.
Got nauseous all of a sudden.
Don't bring him up on this podcast. Ew.
Hi, I'm Hannah.
I am Reese.
And I'm Hunter the Apple Man.
Hunter the Apple Man.
Hunter
Fuck
the
you and
Apple
your
Man.
apples.
Man.
Just don't bring
I
those.
got a lot of flack about the apples.
This is like the third episode in a row that you bring the apples, and we seriously don't need them.
Man,
Get them out of here.
there's no apples in this movie. Pretty sure.
Are there?
I don't think so. Not in the same way that they were in the last two.
I don't remember.
I would be surprised if there weren't, just because there's so much movie to have apple in.
It's true.
There is so much movie to have apple in.
So much.
Big movie.
Good English, Reese.
Thank
Good
you.
job.
Movie
Big
big.
monkey.
He big monkey.
The shadow
He
of
good
He
dog.
Big Monkey looms over us all with He Big Movie. That's not that funny.
To close out this trilogy of the He Big.
He
Um,
big monkey.
He Big Monkey.
Anyway,
He
The-
Big Good Puppy.
this time
Big
Silas is gone.
He died.
He's not with us anymore.
He's
Um,
no longer with
Silas
us.
is no
Sad. We miss him dearly. However, it's just because he didn't watch this movie.
Yeah, so we
Which
told him to fly home.
I can't really blame him.
We told him,
After
get back
having
where you
seen it,
came
Said,
from.
E.T.
That's
go
a
home."
spoiler. We're talking about an interesting movie with lots of weird kind of tensions and criticism around it.
Uh-huh.
That still somehow is basically one of the highest grossing movies of all time.
In the
And
mean, just for inflation?
right. I
Yeah.
was gonna say, I guess depending on your calculations, if you adjust for inflation, it is still by a huge margin the highest grossing movie of all time. It's Gone with the Wind. Hooray.
And then
Why?
when you go into the abstract, this is a musical transition.
Yeah, exactly. We can put that in. I just made like a wind blowing sound, and I can be
Yeah.
like,
Gone with the
"Gone
wind."
with the wind," because we're nostalgic about things that were bad,
Yay.
just like this movie.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Wait. Okay. So this movie came out in 1939. It was based on a novel by Margaret Mitchell that had come out 3 years before. Big chunker of a book, over 1,000 pages.
big chunker.
So, made adapting it a little bit rough. That's why the movie's 3 hours and 40 minutes, and we'll talk about that a little bit later as well. Directed by several people, primarily our old friend, Victor Fleming.
Woot.
You can call him a friend, I guess.
A good buddy who we
He's-
don't
Wasn't he that?
entirely
He's
approve
not really
of.
delivering on what we're looking for.
No,
but,
not
I
really.
appreciate
It's
that
actually-
he's doing stuff.
Right. He
He tried his best.
He's doing something.
He let
I don't know
some.
what it is.
He big monkey.
He big monkey.
Maybe. Yeah.
I don't know.
Definitely. It really, this is one of those ones that also was very popular at the time. What?
This
What
movie-
happened? Okay.
Reese
This is going to be an
still
interesting
recovering from the
episode.
trauma
This
of
is going to be a little
movie.
bit rough.
I'm the only one of the three of us that watched it in one
Yeah,
sitting.
I'm
you
sorry,
did.
I
I
couldn't
was a
do it.
wuss, and
back
I
to
just
back.
my
It's
time
so
was broken up
long.
weird, and
It hurt so much.
With Wizard of Oz,
I-
the abuse, so much
It's
Fleming
just-
getting.
it's been a
thrown at
rough
you.
week.
Like basically an entire video game. I'll be honest, because Donut County, you do not have to pay attention to the
Yeah.
dialogue because it's poorly written and boring
Aw.
anyway.
Oh, good.
So they were just I just looked down and
yeah,
just
I
the
basically
wo-
did the same thing.
You just move around the joystick
I
and the
couldn't-
hole gets bigger as it swallows up things. and
Yeah,
that's
I
the
kind of
entire
cheated this
game.
movie, I'll admit. But
Yeah.
I just could not bring myself to fully engage with it because I could just tell from the beginning that it just was not going to give me anything.
It's upsetting.
It's rough
Why
for
is it a
several
classic?
reasons.
We can get into that.
It.
for sure.
I don't know. Well, I don't know. There's various things to talk about there, but it was very popular even just when it came out. Like, some people didn't think it was going to be great, and then it came out, and they were, breaking attendance records at the theater it premiered at in Atlanta. They were selling tickets, I think, for, 40 times the normal price. People spent
really
money on this thing.
Dang.
Yes.
Why would
That
they
is
do
one
that?
thing
40
that I
times
saw.
the normal
I
price.
think, I'm pretty
To
sure
sit down
I
for
did see
4
that.
Is that like
hours?
spending $60 to go see a movie?
I don't
now?
know. I probably, yeah. or $30 for one movie. Don't watch Mulan.
Shout out to
anyway,
Mulan. Frick that.
Yeah, no, but I don't know. Maybe it wasn't always 40 times the price. That might have been for like certain showings, I think. But like, definitely it seemed like they were charging more than usual, which may have helped it get a lot of money. It also was re-released generally throughout the century. As time went on, they just kept putting this out, which we kind of discussed with like Snow White. Probably helped add to its total, as money-wise anyway. But people seem to really like it at the time. People still seem to hold it in high regard. I'm not really entirely sure why. Because like, it's nice. It's well made, I guess. It looks cool, but like, it kind of has gathered criticism over time, then and now, for kind of glorifying the old South and kind of this kind of pre-Civil War era in the southern United States, where it's like, we had slavery, and boy, it was a good time. Like,
right.
I had that kind of conversation with my mom. Like, Mom was there when I started watching it yesterday, and we were just like, it's okay to represent things like this in like a historically accurate way. Like, you don't have to, necessarily change things to be like more politically correct or whatever. But it's also framed, you can cast it in a light where it's like, this happened, but we don't approve of it. This does not do that. This is like, this happened and it was awesome.
Right. Well, that's the thing, is that when it starts with like, oh, this is like the last age of like, chivalry and knights or something like that.
But then it's like master and slave, and it's like, oh God,
don't do that.
It says disgusting things like right from the get-go, and it seems racist and weird and gross.
Very.
But at the same time, it's weird because, like, for me, it never was convincingly glorifying anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, it didn't really sell why those things were supposed to be good. It was just like, oh, it's the bygone era. Weren't it good? I don't know. I just lapsed into horrible English. But yeah, like, it just kind of assumes that you're just like, it's like nostalgic for something almost. It's just like, remember when things were this way? Which at the time wasn't that long past. Like, this was like,
I thought it was just
50
trying to be
years
historically
out,
accurate. But
yeah, like,
I
don't know.
Yeah, I guess I see it.
I don't know. I couldn't really vouch for anything like that because I don't really know. But like, it felt like a fantasy of just like the past.
Yeah.
And just like, but like, it wasn't good.
Yeah, and it wasn't convincing. Like, there was nothing about that era that I would want to live in. Right. Not only just from the perspective of like, oh yeah, that was actually shitty in reality, but even in that weird fantasy world of everything being fine.
Yeah, like, I don't know.
It still sucks.
It's just,
it's still gross and weird, and I hate pretty much every character in this movie.
I do too. I think everyone in this movie is kind of a heap of trash. Like, it's made it really hard to get into.
Was her name Melanie?
I think so.
Yeah.
She's okay.
The cousin or something?
Yeah, I mean, like, she's supposed to be nice, but she's also kind of nice.
I don't know, man. It just was really hard for me to grasp onto anything that happened.
Yeah.
So much
so long.
competitive and jealous.
I guess we can try and go through what happens.
Like, I think the reason why I have any kind of appreciation for it is probably not the way I feel like a lot of people talk about, where they're like, oh, it's the most beautiful love story ever told. It's like, it's amazing, it's gorgeous. And for me, it's not any of those things. It's like, man, this is like bad person doing bad thing to other bad person, and it just is this endless cycle of garbage and feeling useless and disgusting and depressed and not being able to live with yourself for 4.5 hours or 3.5 hours or whatever. It just feels like it's forever.
Yeah.
But like, for some reason, there's something that manages to be effective in that. And it almost works for me on this level of like almost a weird kind of like masochism on part of the characters and on part of the audience for in any way trying to sympathize with these characters who suck.
Yeah.
And that is interesting to me.
I kind of wondered if they were going for that at the end.
Right.
When he leaves her and it's like, oh, everything that has happened up to this point has just led to more failure and misery. And like, maybe that's the whole point, but like, I don't know if it was.
Right.
I don't know if that's what they were going for, but I do kind of like that. And there is some interesting critical sentiment that was around even at the time it came out that I will throw in here and I think is interesting because it's very not in the camp of like, oh, it's such a beautiful love story.
Right. Yeah.
There's some cool stuff that was said. So
it wasn't what I expected. I actually had no idea what it was about.
Yeah, I didn't really know any details about it. Really
heard about it, but never seen it.
Like, it is something that's so ingrained in just popular culture. Like, you just know about it. It's just kind of out there, brought up, but like, it's got that famous line.
What is it?
Right. And for me, the only reasons why it belongs anywhere near this list is Max Steiner's incredible score.
Yeah, the score's cool.
Ridiculous cinematography that just feels so wide and expansive and vast and colorful in this way that like is frankly shocking, even with like the context of knowing what they could do with like The Passion of Joan of Arc. Like I can't think of another movie that feels like that has that kind of scope in the frame that movie does. Totally. And it's like, obviously there's something like Villeneuve, which we talked about, like with his like massive like wide shots, but it's a different vibe than that.
Right.
It's something. Yeah.
I mean,
the camera
like,
truly feels like grand and epic in this way that I don't know how to explain.
Right. There's just like various aspects of it that feel very like big and ambitious, and just like, the shots, the music, like the length. There's just all these things that are big and impressive, and it's cool. Like, they pulled it off nicely, but like the content of it, like, could not give a shit about any of these people.
Right. Like,
the characters were annoying.
I hate every single character in that movie. And that's kind of why, for me, there's like the weird kind of masochism to the film. It's like, man, I hate you, and I hate everything that you're doing, and there's something slightly satisfying about the fact that everything's going bad for you, but also I feel bad for you.
Right.
Yeah. And so much like, crisis one after the other. It was kind of a lot to take.
It got kind of comical at the end, I felt like.
It was.
Because people started like dropping dead left and right, and I was like, oh my God.
It's like aggressively melodramatic. And it's weird because
it's like 2020.
It basically is 2020, the movie. Is a train wreck of just everything bad happening, and to a point where it's almost comical. But like, it's weird because it soap operas are popular for a reason, and it's because people like a melodrama that is just completely ridiculous. And there's something about that people like about just the like overwhelming kind of just like so overdone emotion that like you can very easily just become desensitized to it all. And it's depressing. Like, that movie is Gone with the Wind is so depressing to me, but it's simultaneously like it does fulfill that kind of weird melodramatic thing that, like, while I don't enjoy, there's something about it that does work for me.
Yeah,
and I don't know why. Maybe it's different when you watch it in one sitting.
True.
And you're sitting there in a basement feeling bad.
Yeah, you got a different experience than we did, for sure.
Yeah, no, like, you would think that it would be like, man, really, like, the Old South had kind of nothing to miss.
Right.
Or something. But there is, like, it is kind of like, oh man, we're lamenting the loss of the Old South. And it's like, it didn't convince me that there's anything that the Old South, you know, had that was valuable. It definitely, like, it more feels like life got worse for her, for Scarlet, like, the more she participated in the way that the world actually works, which to me is just like, okay, so essentially the nice thing about the Old South in this movie's opinion is the fact that one can entirely remove themselves from reality and the problems of real people. And I'm like, that's not anything to celebrate. And I don't, and it's kind of trying to celebrate it. And that's, you know, obviously shitty, and I don't have any respect like, for that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's weird because it's again, like, in the way that I can be sympathetic for, like, the emotions of so many, like, fucked up people. I kind of feel that for everything surrounding this movie, where it's like, man, all of this sucks and is just totally coming from this, like, weird, wrong place that just is entirely, like, helpless, like, just so, like, lost and aimless and wandering and trying to find just, like, something desperately to grasp onto and feeling completely incapable of doing so. And it's like, I have a sympathy for that. I have a sympathy for the writers and the actors that had to put themselves through this, and everything surrounding the story and the characters and all of that. And it, you know, it doesn't make this an enjoyable film or something that I have like a reverent respect for. It just makes it something that, like, very interestingly had a sort of effect on me, even if I, which is true, certainly never plan to watch this movie again.
Right.
Like, every once in a while I might actually like scrub through it because it's on Max just to look at certain shots, which are gorgeous. But like, man, it's a really deeply immoral time. I put this on my Letterboxd review. It's a deeply immoral period in American history that's then fetishized by another deeply immoral period in American history that then we're watching in another deeply immoral period. And it just feels like compounding our obsession with the shitty parts of the past upon itself. People worshiping this movie, worshiping a shitty period. You know, it goes back and then even then, this movie at the beginning is it's fetishizing the South, but it's also sort of fetishizing like, you know, the Crusades and other shitty periods of not American history, but of Western history. And it just kind of feels like this endless cycle of us looking backwards at the thing, you know, before us that sucked and being like, oh man,
good times. Wasn't
that great? Because I don't actually have to think about any of the moral implications of that time, but I do have to think about the moral implications of the time that I'm in now. Yeah. You know? And it's so like, it's so lost and depressing in that sense because it just feels like it's maybe intentionally, maybe unintentionally just saying like, man, we all long for the thing that we don't know about because we can imagine it was better than this.
Yeah, right.
But in reality, life just sucks.
Right. And something that I found that's kind of maybe related to that. Do you know what also is depressing is the highest grossing movie before Gone with the Wind came out was Birth of a Nation.
God.
Which is really depressing. Like having those two be like the height of your like financial success in film is like yikes.
What is Birth of a Nation?
Ooh.
It's another kind of pseudo historical film that is pretty heavy on the white supremacy.
Like,
yay.
To the extent of it, like, really like, kind of, it didn't create the KKK.
It's very, Klan-centric.
What the heck?
It celebrates the KKK.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It is the kind of movie that in Black Klansmen they watch at the Klan meetings.
Yeah, like it's way heavier on that than this is even. Yeah. But like, it obviously, like I did not know that it was that successful. I didn't know it was that big a deal. But the art stuff on this was being like,
it's
this
so aggressively
Gone with the Wind,
racist.
Gone with the Wind unseated Birth of a Nation as like the highest grossing film.
It was so long. It's weird that it came out the same year as Wizard of Oz, and they were like wrestling to get that time down for Wizard of Oz, closer to an hour and a half. And Gone with the Wind is like,
even this they had to keep down.
Yeah. I'm 4 hours.
But yeah, no, it is interesting that Gone with the Wind ends up being such a long movie, like made by the same guy, but like they're wanting it to be so much shorter, and then it ends up being, you know, this long
and still so successful.
But I've actually heard that if they were to adapt the movie like according to like more directly the way that the book went, it would be 3 months long.
My gosh,
that's what I heard somebody say. Like I
I
don't know that there are those time skips. Like I was talking to my manager at work who was like, I hate that movie, but she's like, I like the book. The book is actually one of my favorite books when I read it as a kid, and it's really interesting. And I was watching the movie and I was like, oh, it's literally nothing like the book in this sense. And yeah, she was saying that it would be like 3 months long if they adapted it the way
and maybe that's why written. If the book was really popular, then maybe that's why so many people went to go see it.
Yeah, true.
Despite its length.
Yeah. But also, people for some reason really like being nostalgic about the South and the Confederacy.
Even to this day.
It's still a thing. Like people like having their Confederate flag around.
Yeah, there's just like
with like Confederate flags on the back of their cars and like truck nuts or something.
Yeah, like there's just like a weird pride in. I mean, I can't speak of it because I guess we were from the South. We're not anymore. Haven't been for a very long time. But like, you know, I don't get, I guess, the pride of like, I'm from the southern half of the country, and like maybe even a specific set of those states that are just like in that area. And like there's this
well, it's, you know, it's
like a historical
like my family's
thing
from
like,
Virginia.
Yeah.
Like Robert E. Lee was like, I don't know, some great uncle multiple times removed or something like that. And honestly, the fact that like that knowledge of the fact that we're related to that guy is even like remembered now is kind of weird. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like it's still this,
it really wasn't that long ago.
Amount of
like relative
pride about it, which is you know,
it's weird.
It's weird because it's like it was just a war where like, I mean, brothers had to, kill their family, like brothers killing brothers, fathers killing sons, and it.
Yeah, isn't it still like the war that took the most American lives? I think.
I mean, it's probably up there.
I think it's not. I think it
number
might be.
one.
I remember hearing that, like, more than the World Wars.
Yeah,
which is crazy, but like,
I mean,
it's not a good time.
Yeah,
but
it's just it's a weird thing that people are obsessed with it, because then people are, making it. They're saying it's about states' rights. It's about this. It's about that. It's not about slavery. And I don't know. It kind of feels
a pretty big
like
part of it.
It's a significant enough part of it that I don't know why it's something that people hold on to the extent of wanting to celebrate it still.
Right, like states' rights. You mean like the states' rights to have slaves?
Right, like ultimately, it just feels like the kind of period. And this is obviously just my personal opinion. No offense to people who feel differently or whatever, but like it just feels like there's enough murkiness and messed up stuff going on enough that like it just doesn't feel like the kind of thing that needs to be celebrated. Like we don't lose anything by not celebrating this.
Yeah,
like it can be a part of history.
Don't really understand.
That's fine, and I'm not saying people like shouldn't study this era in history.
Totally.
Like I do find it interesting to study.
Yeah,
but
it still has been celebrated in a lot of weird ways.
Right.
And that's why
just don't get why.
I really don't mind when we change names of places that are named after like Confederate generals or whatever, or like pull statues down. I'm like, go off, guys! They stood for something really terrible, and I don't want to celebrate that.
Did you just
kind of like this movie?
See that new article that's going around the last few days of somewhere in the South are trying to petition for a Confederate statue to be removed and replaced with one of Chadwick Boseman.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Wouldn't that be so cool?
Yeah, that'd be an improvement.
I totally said that. Chadwick Boseman. Wow, I switched those letters.
Oh.
I am so tired right now.
I understand. If we were banking them, we'd probably be even more tired than we are now.
True, indeed. But thank God we don't do that.
It's a good thing we don't record multiple episodes at the same time.
Chadwick Boseman.
That's a good dude.
Rest in power.
Yeah, boy.
Liked that guy.
A legend. Man, everything's so sad. Like
it's a really rough time.
I know time. This year really sucks.
Yeah,
which will come up again as we keep talking about the recent release of this movie on a certain streaming service that we watched it on.
Oh yeah.
I guess I can just talk about that right now since we're kind of on that topic.
Did we already do a plot summary? I can't even remember.
No, we did not. I guess we can try and do that first.
We could.
Okay, I'll try and stumble my way through that. See if I remember how it goes. You've got your Southern lady Scarlet, and she is crazy.
Truth.
And she likes Ashley, but Ashley's gonna marry his cousin.
Ashley is a boy.
Anyway, that doesn't work out. And she says she'll marry the other guy, and then he goes off to war and dies. And then
she does marry him.
She does marry him? Okay. I couldn't remember if like they actually got married.
And then she's like widowing, and she's like, I hate this,
like,
I didn't give
I
a
don't
crap.
actually care. It's whatever. And
I don't want to have to wear black.
Also, Rhett Butler is there, and he's funny, kind of.
He's kind of like usual, a garbagey 1930s looking dude, and he's just
token garbage man,
right? And he's just like, I kind of. I guess his vibe is like, at least I admit I'm garbage.
Yeah, kind of. He's definitely, he's not like the other guys.
We love men who
he sucks.
We love men who acknowledge the fact that they're trash.
Right.
Right.
And then I
don't know.
Kind of by the end, he maybe kind of becomes not that bad. Like he has like a bit of a growth arc.
Feels like it a little bit, yeah.
And she just doesn't. Like our main character Scarlet,
like she stays the same.
She goes through 3 marriages
annoying.
in the course of this movie.
Right.
I mean,
boy, she's a mess.
So many years of history happen. Like I don't know how many years take place throughout this movie. Like nearly 20 years.
Seems like a long time. Yeah. Because, like, they go through basically the end of the Civil War. Like, she's doing stuff. She's trying to, like, keep down her plantation home and stuff. And, like, all that. And then the war ends. And, like, it's a mess with all that. And that's, like, the first half of the movie.
It, like, starts right before the war is declared.
It starts before the war is declared.
Yeah. So, and then goes through, like, the end of it.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Half, like, ends. Oh, my gosh. Yeah, like, when she's
forgetting all these
trying
details.
to deal with the fallout of the war.
So they show the whole thing in, like, the first half, roughly, I think. Maybe even into the second half.
And then the second half is her just, like, being like, nah, money. money,
marry
all
this
that
dude
matter.
and run his business, and then get rid of that. Oh, you have to pay like the taxes or something on the plantation.
Oh, right,
I don't know. It's weird, and then that doesn't work out. Does he die?
Yeah,
I think
he dies because she gets attacked by some people.
Oh yeah,
and she's complaining about it a bunch.
Right.
That she got attacked, and so her husband goes out trying to get those guys, and he gets killed. And she does not care again that her
she doesn't really get attached to any of these people.
She's a real piece of work.
There's never anything good about her. There's never
like she's annoying
single
from
redeeming
the first
character.
scene.
Yeah.
Like,
and honestly, I looked up a few things about this movie, and like reviews or comments on it, I would see positive things like, oh, it's such a classic, and oh, the casting and writing is just genius. And I was like, casting and writing. And I'm like, the acting drives me nuts. And it's probably because their script was like crappy. I don't know.
I think they got like Academy Awards for this too. Like,
are you serious?
Yeah, for the acting and a lot of things.
What?
They have this movie got 8 Academy Awards.
Oh, it won Best Picture because Wizard of Oz lost to it.
And 2 honorary apparently.
Wow.
So.
I just thought they were super annoying.
Yeah,
they were, but I don't know. It's like I don't know if it's just the characters or not.
Right.
Because that's the thing. Is
like,
I try to, when I watch movies like this, I try to separate in my mind as much as I can to figure out like, okay, is the thing I'm not responding to the performance, the writing, or just the character? Good. And with this movie, I kind of feel like, very frustratingly, it's the characters.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if I'm supposed to like them, but I definitely don't like them. But I don't know that I feel like it's written poorly and performed poorly. It's like I feel
That's
like
fair.
the actors were given this thing to do. The writers were given this character to work with.
Because it's a melodrama, so everything's... Maybe that's what it is. It's just... It's so over the top, and it's so extra, and I hate that.
And melodramas don't... Like, I don't think melodramas work now. Like,
no.
It's really hard.
They do as plays.
Right.
They're fun as plays, especially as comedies. But this was not.
Yeah. Like,
I don't know. I just could not get into it.
But for example, Kurosawa's melodramas generally tend to, as far as modern reception go, be considered his like weakest films, depending on the one.
Yeah.
But he did one called The Lower Depths based off of Maxim Gorky's play. That one is a melodrama that really works, but it's because it's got a setting that it's like a one location short movie with these characters that you actually do sympathize for because they are put in garbage, uncomfortable situations. Not that you are following people that are doing uncomfortable garbage things to themselves the entire time. Actually, it kind of feels like how I've heard people describe Game of Thrones is what Gone with the Wind is.
How so?
No,
because I've heard Game of Thrones is just all these bad people doing bad things, making life hard on themselves and others, and it just is this endless cycle of that.
Agreed.
And I'm not sure because I guess I haven't watched it.
I feel like
the thing that I hear.
I feel like this is probably worse, but I think on that general point of like bad people doing bad things, I agree.
Right. Yeah.
Seems right.
I don't know. It's interesting because maybe it works for some people, but like we've talked about that before on the podcast. But like our modern, viewing minds, I don't know, tend to prefer realism.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like.
Yeah.
Again, like in a weird sense, like Lady Bird is kind of the peak of what. Or just a very good example of what we want in movies now. I think largely as a society, we want something that like responds to our very specific experiences, and we want something that like conveys real characters that have issues, but also that you feel sympathetic for.
Right.
And basically, you feel like you're coming out like learning something about real life.
Yeah, you can empathize and relate with it. Yeah, I get
and this
that,
movie definitely is not that because its goal is like, hey, we are going to just produce the strongest emotion we can in you, at the expense of, anything real happening, or at the expense of really talking about the issues in a weird way.
Right.
Totally.
And so it's just dramatic pain all the way through. And it's, I don't know. That's why I feel conflicted on it, because it's like it's entirely unenjoyable. I don't really want to watch it again.
Yeah.
but I also don't know that I feel like because it's entirely unenjoyable and I don't want to watch it again that it sucks. You know, it's like
I know
it's a weird mix of things, which is I think why I gave it a 4, because it's like it's redeeming not as a film, but it's redeeming as far as it like as its production. Like the content of the film is not redeeming. The production of the film is in some ways redeeming for at least a decent half of its reputation. Yeah. Like it deserves half of the reputation it has.
Yeah. I think it's notable for that. Just the production side of things is interesting. And then it almost just is like it has a reputation because it has a reputation. Because it's just so ingrained in culture. Yeah. And just it's just so kind of universally known of, and
the fact that it is also says something about our society that like is uncomfortable to think about, but but it is still so culturally relevant, and that's weird.
Do people like it because it is a classic? It's kind of like Wizard of Oz. Like people just say it's a classic, so they kind of just like it and think it's amazing without actually making their own opinion on it.
Right. It was even weird. Like looking through the Letterboxd reviews. Like this has a pretty high rating on Letterboxd, but like looking through the like popular ones, like there were some people who had similar takes to us, where they're like 1 or 2 stars or 3 stars, and they're like, yeah, it's a classic. It's kind of impressive in some ways, but like the story's really trash. Like this is not something that's worth celebrating. Like this is kind of bad. But then there were also plenty of like 4.5, 5-star reviews where they're like, "Oh my gosh, it's the best! I love it." And I'm just like, I don't know. I haven't read too deeply into that kind of stuff, or just the personal takes on stuff. But like, it's still a fairly diverse opinion, but trends toward positive, for sure.
Like I think it's bonkers how good it looks and how good it sounds.
Yeah, it's a very pretty movie.
But other than that, and I think it's also kind of bonkers that it, for me at least, the pacing it's good enough that it doesn't feel too bad for a 3.5-hour movie. It's got interesting pacing. It's not
right.
And
if something I liked
ever
was
compare
happening.
it to what I'm doing it right now.
Right.
Seven Samurai, which is a movie that is 3.5 hours long, that feels like it's 20 minutes long because it just works so perfectly.
I mean, I'm actually into what's happening. So.
Yeah. Gone with the Wind works by like sheer force, where it's just like bombarding you with the fact that this is a long mammoth of a movie and you have to respect it. And it, you know, and I think it works kind of on that level, but it's not this like subtle thought out, like somehow this manages to be this long because it requires itself to be that long because it deserves that length and it, you know,
it just kind of ended up happening
the audience
like,
there.
like it just was being adapted from something that was just enormous in scope, and then narrowing that down was the writers were not entirely up to that task, perhaps. I think there seemed to have been an argument like the first draft pass was like a 6.5-hour movie basically. Dang. Like if they had gone through with it, but then like they went through it and some people were probably still like, I saw some quotes where people were like, maybe you still kept a little bit too much of the book in there. Like I think it definitely, even at the time, was a little bit criticized for its length. Like it's like, did it really need to be this long?
Probably not. I don't think it would be on this list at all if it weren't that long, in a weird way.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it would have had the kind of relevance, because a lot of people haven't seen movies this big. Yeah. You know, haven't seen movies with such a grand scope. Like, and when you do, it is its own kind of spectacle.
Right. You only get a pass for this length at this point if you are a Marvel movie.
I just pulled up
in the big public consciousness.
Positive reviews on Letterboxd, just to reference what you mentioned.
Yeah.
And someone said, "It's currently 12:30 a.m. and I'm utterly speechless. My plan was to watch half tonight and half in the morning, but I really couldn't put this down. The 3 hours and 58 minutes runtime flew by so fast.
58.
Timeless masterpiece. Never in a million years," this is a different one, "never in a million years did I think that Scarlet O'Hara, of all people, would be someone I identify with so strongly."
Oh, God.
Who are these people? Where did they come from? Why did they give it 5 stars?
Oh man, I really just hate having no regard for anyone around me. Like, that is Scarlet O'Hara as a character is just like, I have
Literally.
no respect for anybody around me,
and there's
everybody can go to hell because I don't want to be poor again or something.
Yeah.
That's her motivation.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like no resolution in the movie. Like it's pretty disappointing.
It just ends.
You never care about them. It just happens, and it's
like
4 hours of your life you don't get back.
Point that it's calling out like, hey, in our society, like money rules everything, and it's like really upsetting that it like pushes people to these extremes. And if that's what it really felt like it was going for, that would be another thing. Like I do think that is there, and I don't know if that's the point or not.
Mm-hmm.
But like, it does get that point across.
Yeah,
you know,
that is definitely an interesting part of it. That just made me think too of like some of the review snippets that I saw that I kind of wanted to bring up too, that I thought were interesting, because some people, like obviously at the time people still liked it, but then there was like, what was this one? Yeah, generally well received, especially on the technical front, highly ambitious, and it does what it needs to. But then there was like quotes about it being too long and dramatically unconvincing. Was the quote I saw there. And then like Franz Hellering, who wrote for like The Nation, said the result is a film which is a major event in the history of the industry, but only a minor achievement in motion picture art. There are moments when the two categories meet on good terms, but the long stretches between are filled with mere spectacular efficiency.
That is probably the best take I've heard on
like
any
there are
movie
really
ever.
good.
That's good,
like,
yeah.
Can you
takes on
repeat
this.
that one more time?
Yeah, I'll get the big bits.
Louder for the people in the back.
Which is a major event in the history of the industry, but only a minor achievement in motion picture art. There are moments when the two categories meet on good terms, but the long stretches between are filled with mere spectacular efficiency. That's a very interesting phrase. Mere spectacular.
That is.
Yeah.
Like it's like you're doing your thing. You're getting your job done, but like what you're doing is not artistic. And there was also a discussion here about like it came out like there was with that stringent desire to like stick close to the source material, which was kind of driven by the producer, it sounds like, Selznick. Like it seems like there was this opinion that it felt like a movie that was produced instead of being like created or directed, that it was just, it kind of was forced into existence.
That is interesting.
And that it wasn't an incredibly artistic endeavor, which
is weird. Like I have respect for Selznick,
right?
Because he did King Kong and A Star Is Born.
Yeah.
Like these guys are notable film workers, but like they made this thing that just ends up feeling, it's impressive, but also maybe a little bit soulless in a way. Like it doesn't have a lot of heart to it. Which maybe not is.
It's at least got one half of the two things that you want in a movie like this. Which, if we're going to The Rise of Skywalker, it's like, flat, boring, uninteresting, and also artless. This one is grand and a spectacle, but also artless. And it feels so hard to find an epic that doesn't feel artless. Right. Because if you ask me, like, I also think Endgame is artless in that way. Like, it's also a spectacle that can produce an emotion just by hitting you over the head with it, really. It just forces that emotion out of you, just kicking you in the head until you cry or something. But it is artless. And the only, like, there are very few epics that I feel like actually manage to come across as artful. And, I mean, I guess we'll definitely get into it, but Seven Samurai is definitely that, and I'm assuming that any of Edward Yang's movies, like I'm sure Brighter Summer Day is.
I really look forward to watching that.
Yeah.
In one sitting.
Yeah.
Because I actually feel like that's going to be something that is enjoyable to watch, and that actually will feel right to watch.
And I think it's maybe important for an epic to have the kind of humanist perspective. You know what I mean?
Right. Like, this just did not have it at all. Like, this was not something I wanted to get into from the beginning. I could just tell, like, I saw her just like, can't do it.
It really was pretty.
It was, yeah.
It was so
some of
pretty.
those silhouette shots
was another,
with, like, the
those
golden
were
hour.
Cool.
I was into that. That was so dreamy.
Like it looks like the kind of thing that would be shot today.
Yeah.
And would be impressive now.
Yeah,
totally.
Really pretty.
It's a lot of neat stuff. Ooh, there was another review I had, like, I saved the snippet from. There was like somebody writing for The Guardian that said, if the story had been cut short and tidied up at the point marked by the interval, and if the personal drama had been made subservient to a cinematic treatment of the central theme, the collapse and devastation of the Old South, then Gone with the Wind might have been a really great film. And I
think I agree with
that would be kind of interesting. Like, if you had kind of a nuanced perspective on the death of the Old South, being gone with the wind, as it were, like, and married that with the character drama, like, that probably would at least be somewhat more interesting than what happened.
Like, I think you could cut
having
it down,
that core,
give it the, like, and that's weird to say for me because I'm a massive fan of the 95 Pride and Prejudice miniseries, but give it the 2005 Pride and Prejudice Keira Knightley treatment.
Yeah,
like, cut it down into its basest elements, and then it's at least a movie that's like stomachable and it gets the point across that it's going for. And no, it's probably still not going to become an artful masterpiece, but it's at least a movie that's not going to, sure, you wasted in a way 4 hours of your life, but it also probably sucked out 4 extra years of your life in a very Princess Bride-esque fashion. You know what I mean?
I guess so. Yeah, right.
Perfect.
Like, I feel like my life expectancy went down after watching this movie.
I agree.
Because it made me depressed. Like, it's just...
Yeah. And, like,
it's so bad.
That kind of thought of the fact that, like, it almost is like two movies doing different things definitely seemed to be pretty popular too. A lot of opinions where it's like the first half is at least slightly more interesting because it's set against the backdrop of the Civil War. Yeah. Like, you actually kind of have that idea of, like, this is the end of this era. It's going away, and it's a moment of massive change. And there's maybe something interesting you could say there because it happened. That's half of the country roughly that, like, was kind of forced through great conflict to change their ways. And, that is kind of an interesting event in history, and you could do something with that. And then the second half is just, like, entirely the melodrama of the characters. And it's just, like, you lose all of that thematic interest. Interest. And, like...
It's so weird. Like, I agree with everything that's being said, and I also still, like, think it's a 4-star film. It's weird.
Well, that's fair.
It's a weird mix of things that I like. I don't know that I respect it. It's like, it's maybe if I do, it's begrudging, but it's also like, it does do something.
You understand.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Totally.
Well, and even just the fact that you keep saying it is a melodrama just puts it all into perspective of it's supposed to be this way, I guess. Maybe to an extent.
Ways, yeah. Like, it definitely could be done in, a way that isn't quite as soulless or in a way that's celebratory of something shitty. But I don't know. It kind of does what it manages to do in maybe an uninteresting way, but it's still a feat, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah, totally.
Agreed.
Like, it's a monumental movie, regardless.
Can we talk about Scarlet's temper tantrums? Oh, God. And the slapping?
I mean, like, the entire length of the film?
It's it was just so inspiring watching all of the slapping. I was just like, wow, I want to go try that.
She's just so grumpy.
So grumpy. Like, puts Grumpy and Snow White to shame.
It's true.
Yeah. I'm more scared of her.
Oh, my gosh.
She's all over the place.
Never want to meet anybody like that.
Maybe she's mentally ill. I know many people like this character.
I mean, unfortunately, I think I know a few people that I feel like could probably sort of fit the bill for that. And they're not very happy people.
Yes.
And they make me not very happy.
Exactly.
But
good stuff.
But it's unfortunate. Like, I don't know that this is the kind of person that, like, this doesn't sound the way that I intended, but my sentence was going to be, this isn't the kind of person that should exist. But I don't mean that. These people shouldn't exist, but more like, how do we live in a society that, like, breeds this sort of, like, personality disorder?
Exactly. I guess. I was going to say it was very much like a mental...
Yeah.
Something mentally is not right with you. And it wasn't just the men being trash. This woman was pretty psycho.
Yeah.
Like, it was both sides.
Our chronicling of, film so far has just been like, oh, yeah, men are trash.
Yeah.
Man, they really do be trash.
Not a feminist podcast.
We get to see, women are trash and men are trash.
Yeah.
Women are crazy and evil. Men are garbage.
Yeah.
That is that. Good night, everybody.
Do you want to hear about some of the production side of things? There's some interesting things that happen there.
I do.
They were in pre-production for like 2 years for this.
Whoa.
They bought the film rights like a month after the book came out. Like, it was like, got it, done. And then it took 2 years basically to cast the leads.
What?
Because they really wanted Clark Gable on as Rhett, and he was like tied up in some other contracts and stuff, like with MGM, I think. And then like they had to just have this giant rights battle and deal to like figure out how to let him be on the movie, which eventually worked out. And then for Scarlet, there was like this, it was like a big publicity thing. They were like, the search for Scarlet. And they were like, they spent like $100,000 on this massive like casting search. And they interviewed like 1,400 ladies trying to cast this character.
Yeah.
And then Vivien Leigh was just like a random blip, probably, I don't think even within that search. And it just like kind of worked out where they were like, oh yeah, she's the one.
Sounds like how they found Alden Ehrenreich.
Ooh, yeah, probably.
For Solo.
Yeah, like he was, like it sounded like she was like almost entirely unknown at that point, and they were just like, yep, she's the one.
But
she definitely had a career afterwards.
Did she have a career at all before?
Maybe. I didn't look too deeply into that part.
No, that's okay. That's just really interesting.
Yeah, no, at least as film is concerned, she's English,
okay.
actually, which is funny too. And they had to like get like accent coaches, like voice coaches, to get the Southern accent right for all these people. I
loved her dresses.
Oh
the costuming was very
gorgeous,
fancy. And all these looked very nice.
And she's like very, very dramatic eyes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, she had an interesting face.
I know people who act the way that she acts, like not like her character, like her acting style, and it is very over the top. And today it would be called overacting.
Yeah, I mean,
but
it's
like
really
if
over
this
the
was
top.
one of her first big projects.
Yeah,
like whoa, that's
and it's a really over the top character.
Yeah, that's huge.
It felt like it was in service to the character.
It was,
yeah, because it's just like she's such a like an explosive person too. It's like whoa,
so expressive.
Writing was a mess, like we said. It got passed between a lot of different people. You know, tightened down. It ended up sounded like it's pretty similar to the original vision still, but boy, it went through a lot of different hands. Again, music. Max Steiner did this one, returning again from King Kong and Stars Born.
Good for him.
Go Max,
and we will hear from him again in Casablanca in a couple of weeks.
And I think the Maltese Falcon. Or did he do just the Treasure of the Sierra Madre?
I think Treasure of the Sierra Madre. I didn't see Maltese Falcon. I think he might have even done like The Big Sleep or something.
Okay.
But I don't think Maltese Falcon. I may be wrong.
He's cool. I like his
busy guy, very talented.
Feels very
good
influential
stuff.
on Hollywood score in general.
Filmed from January to July. Went through, George Cukor was the first director. He'd been on the whole pre-production cycle, apparently. Was like, he was the dude. 3 weeks into shooting, he gets kicked out, and Victor Fleming is brought in. And then Victor Fleming eventually just got, like, exhausted, and they brought in a guy named Sam Wood to film for a little bit more, and then I guess they were done.
Victor Fleming's like, I can't save Wizard of Oz and Gone with the Wind.
Like, he was just like, I'm tired.
He's like, I'm fine. I'll do the bulk of the work on both.
Yeah.
But I'm not doing it all.
Put my name on it.
And there was an interesting note that, like, with, Cukor and Fleming's directing styles being very different, I guess George Cukor, like, kept mentoring, like, Vivien Leigh and one of the other actresses on their acting parts, like, on the side, like, maybe even in secret, just to, like, I don't know. I guess they liked working with him and like the way that he directed their acting, and like he kept having some weird input on the side, which was interesting.
Did they say why George Cukor was kicked out?
I missed the bit there.
That's okay. I didn't really see much.
I'm not sure
about the directors who were kicked out of Wizard of Oz either, but
there were some parts of this that I had trouble finding details on. But
that's just interesting.
Oh wait, no. Actually, I remember looking into this because I remember I looked into one of the details and I couldn't find it. If I may quote Wikipedia like a bad person.
Yes, that's what we do.
There is a bit about Selznick and Cukor disagreeing over the pace of filming and the script. And then this is the weird part. Other explanations put his departure down to Gable's discomfort at working with him. And a biographer claimed that Gable had worked Hollywood's gay circuit as a hustler, and that Cukor knew of his past, so Gable used his influence to have him discharged. But Vivien Leigh and Olivia de Havilland tried to have that not happen because they liked working with him.
Right.
So I tried to look into whatever that was referring to with Clark Gable. I could not find more details on that. I had trouble, at least with a cursory search. I did not see much about that. So I don't really know what the details are behind that. But that was a thing that, like, maybe he was also instrumental in that. So yeah, that's all I know
Huh.
about the director swap there.
Yeah,
no, that's interesting.
That's just what's right there. So it was weird.
The more we talk about it, though, it does in some ways kind of feel like the end game of its time.
Kind of. I have another weird similar description that I may say. Let me check and make sure I don't have any more like fun weird stories. They're saying that there's like a myth that the Hayes office fined them like $5,000 for the "don't give a damn" line because it's a swear. But apparently on like November 1st of that year, the Motion Picture Association had an amendment to the code that said that use of the words hell or damn would be forbidden except when their use shall be essential and required for portrayal in proper historical context of any scene or dialogue based upon historical fact or folklore, or a quotation from a literary work, provided that no such use shall be permitted which is intrinsically objectionable or offends good taste. And that was too many words, but there was basically a loophole for like that word specifically, which is weird.
Man, see that the Hayes Code is just a little ridiculous.
It's bonkers.
I think we can all agree on that.
It really was like unoffensive. Like, who cares? But it's also just like, okay, what? Like, why?
See, this is the kind of movie where it would be almost kind of cathartic having a character that just be like, this is fucking ridiculous, though, right? Like, you guys are all fucking insane.
Yeah. Like,
you know what I mean?
It's a lot. Like,
that would make me enjoy this movie more.
Yeah, it would be. Like, again, if it's just like kind of awareness. Here's my bad take. This may be a really like weird take, and people can yell at me. But from what little I know, this reminds me of like this like has feelings of like 50 Shades to it, in a way.
Really?
Like this feels like something like on the production side, kind of, because there's like this mess of like adapting from a book that's also like weird and like bringing it forward. But obviously this is like a hugely successful blockbuster in the ways that those never were. So it's not a perfect corollary, but like there's just some weird stuff, and then it feels like something that like middle-aged women would be like, oh my gosh, Rhett Butler.
Gone with the Wind, 50 Shades meets
and like
Endgame.
There's just some weird stuff in there that's like, and
it.
from like watching those videos that like Folding Ideas has about the movie, about like he has like an hour-long video for like each 50 Shades movie, and like all the weird production drama that was like within those, and like I can't go into it. I can't defend this thesis entirely, but there's just enough similarities that kind of rings in a similar way to me about these movies.
That's so interesting.
Except obviously Gone with the Wind is like the most successful movie of all time. So like there's a pretty big difference and is, regarded as a classic. So it's a huge difference, but also there's just certain things that are like...
I see what you're saying. I never would have made that tie, but I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
There's also like maybe a little bit of marital rape going on.
Yeah,
that's also
a little bit.
That's kind of there's a scene where that happens,
weird.
and she's like, "Woo!" and then people are like, "Hey, that's not cool."
That was uncomfortable.
He's like, yeah, sorry for that, and she's like, no, you're good.
She's just
man.
like, I don't know. She's like, she seemed like she was having a good time, and that's like, yikes.
Very much against her will.
So yeah, like there's some stuff like that, and just it's little things, but it's just when you think of it, and that's all I have to say about that.
Uncomfy.
Yeah.
I'm fully prepared that like this episode included in like basically our last 3 episodes are essentially 3 episodes of very controversial takes.
Yep.
On beloved classics.
This is true. Sorry.
So
okay.
I'm apologetic if you are a particular fan of one or all of these films.
Indeed.
But we just coming at it from whatever this perspective is that we have, which somehow we all happen to feel quite similarly on.
Indeed.
Which is always kind of
surprising. It could just be our generation, like our age. I don't know. My mom would feel probably differently about this movie, and very differently than like my grandma feels about this movie. Because I feel like our grandma who lives in the South has talked about this movie and loves stuff like this. So
interesting.
Makes sense.
My grandma does not like this movie.
Really?
She's
I
like,
could be
it's
wrong.
long and it's just straight depression the entire time.
Yeah.
That's fair.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could be wrong, but I feel like for some reason she likes it. But again, I don't know.
Yeah.
So
I don't have too many more details on it other than more of the racism side of things, which are very interesting.
That is an important thing to talk about.
Yes. So like it hit negatively pretty quickly. Like, Black audiences had a rough time with this for sure. There was a fun quote of him there about like Malcolm X seeing the movie and saying that when Butterfly McQueen went into her act, I felt like crawling under the rug. I think that was Prissy, was it? The like one of the slave ladies, and like it's all this like slave acting is like very just kind of a weird stereotypical idea of like what those characters were like
to watch.
It's rough, very subservient, and like in a positive way, which is bad. I think it's rough. Like they're just like, oh yeah, we're cool, we're slaves, it's fine. And I'm like, okay, I don't know, guys, it's weird. So it immediately was hit weird, but it's also really significant in a positive way because Hattie McDaniel, oh goodness, what was her name? Mammy.
Yeah, she
was the like main slave woman. She was the first like African American actress to win any Academy Award. So like in a weird way, it actually was kind of a big step forward in a way for like black representation in film.
You heard probably. I'm assuming that you also heard what happened at that. Like she wasn't allowed to sit.
She didn't sit with them.
She had to sit at this like separate table.
Yeah, there was an interesting story too about that. Like, she wasn't allowed to sit, or it was that she wasn't allowed to attend the screening. It was another thing.
What?
She couldn't attend the premiere, like with everyone else, and like Clark Gable knew about that and was like, "Oh, I'm gonna boycott the event because that's terrible." And then like I guess she convinced him to go anyway.
Wait, why?
Which is weird. Why couldn't she go? Or because of like segregation laws and stuff.
Like that was
like
still
Jim Crow stuff.
Yeah, Jim Crow laws. Yeah, was preventing her from attending all of these things in the same way.
I guess I was still just thinking like that wasn't.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Was that mentioned in the like the little preamble thing on HBO? Was that she had to like sit at a side table or something at the Academy Awards and she won a freaking award for Best Supporting Actress, and she was pretty fun in the movie.
Like,
it was
she's
a really
great.
Good
performance.
Yeah, like
so
I really
actually
quite liked her. She felt like the most real person, honestly, sometimes out of any of them.
But then she won.
She won, the Best Supporting Actress Academy Award, but like she couldn't.
You would think that if she could win the award, she could sit with everyone else.
It was still just such a weird in-between time with the weird segregation stuff still going, and like it was really rough.
So shameful.
So all that was weird.
As heck.
Also, Vivian Leigh worked for 125 days for $25,000, and Clark Gable worked for 71 days and received over $120,000. So there was also a massive gender pay disparity between the two leads.
We love sexism, like, yes, we do.
Yeah, boy, like rough stuff.
Wow.
And then the marital rape thing was weird. Which I don't know. That's kind of the only details I had, at least for the modern reception of that, or at the time. And then now is the HBO thing that I kind of referenced earlier, which is the video that we saw specifically came because HBO Max started this year in 2020. Like, and I guess they put this movie up pretty shortly after the George Floyd thing happened, and people were immediately like, "Yikes! This movie is rough. It has the racism going on in like a very positive light, which is really bad." There was a quote. What is this? John Ridley wrote in the Days edition of the Los Angeles Times, called for the streaming service to remove the film from the library, writing that it continues to give cover to those who falsely claim that clinging to the iconography of the plantation era is a matter of heritage, not hate, which is interesting.
That seems to be like its thesis.
Right, exactly. Like it's like, oh, it's just the way it was, and that's why it's good, because it's the past, and we don't want to let go of our past, even though it, had this very horrible way of life. And so I think that was interesting. And then, so they removed it. They took it off of HBO Max for a little while, that back in June, and then eventually put it back up with that little video at the beginning of her talking about like, hey, this is a movie that we are very aware has problematic content. There is, racism and slavery in this movie is viewed in a way that is kind of, like fetishizing it. It's like it's being viewed as in a very positive light, and we know that that's wrong, but like we don't want to ignore this, erase this, forget about it. We have to just kind of be aware of it going in.
Right.
We're not approving of this, but it is there, and we can't like get rid of it.
And I appreciated a lot of what was in that thing, but I also do have some issues with the way that it was presented, because it was also like simultaneously doing that, but also like, oh, but don't shut it off.
Right.
Like it's
exactly.
It's
like,
a great
you can
movie.
still watch it. Yeah.
And it's like I don't think you need to say that bit.
Yeah,
like,
I don't know.
I think you need the viewer discretion. Like, this is racist and it treats it in this way, and we shouldn't erase history. In the sense of, we shouldn't get rid of this movie and pretend like there wasn't this racism at the time.
Yeah, like,
explaining the
I'm not
historical
going to
context
delete this
when
movie from existence. Yeah, not going to censor it.
Right.
But not necessarily recommending it to you either.
But then it also being like, but it's a truly wonderful work, and it, like going on top of it, saying all that stuff just felt forced.
That's true. Yeah,
like,
that's
very
fair.
much a corporate thing of Turner being like, but like, still give us your money, give us your views.
Like they still wanted you to watch it for sure. Yeah, I
like,
think
you can't say something just negative about our property. You have to say something nice if you're going to admit that there's racism there.
Right.
And that felt gross to me.
Mm-hmm.
But
Indeed.
Welcome to America.
Let me see something.
Man,
if you're gonna give me constructive feedback,
okay,
I'm gonna need a compliment as well on the side.
There was
a compliment sandwich. Yes.
Yeah.
There was a line they included in the article here too, from the lady that I think did the video, Jacqueline Stewart. She also wrote something for CNN, I guess it looks like, or something, where she said it is like a prime text for examining expressions of white supremacy in popular culture, and said that it is precisely because of the ongoing painful patterns of racial injustice and disregard for Black lives that Gone with the Wind should stay in circulation and remain available for the viewing, analysis, and discussion.
Exactly.
An opportunity to think about what classic films can teach us, she says.
Yeah.
So
it's important.
It is important.
It's out there. Yeah, like we can see the way things were and say, that was bad.
Right. But it is important to see that instead of doing
exactly.
There's videos about it. I think John Oliver had a really good thing on his show like weeks ago, which at this point, maybe by the time you're listening to it, was months ago.
Quite a while ago.
But he did something about U.S. history where he was talking about like the way that we are taught about things in America is just like, man, then we overcame slavery with the Civil War, and then the Civil Rights thing happened, and we've just been good ever since, and there's not all these systemic problems, and like that's kind of the way that we're taught history,
right?
And so in essence, we do kind of need Gone with the Wind to show us the way that racism existed,
right?
Where it did,
how bad it was, not even all that long ago.
That's fed society for so long.
Yeah, totally.
And it's something that's still well revered. Like this movie that you've heard about your entire life, maybe not having seen, this is what's in that film. Like that's an important thing that we do need to know.
For sure.
And so the subtitle to this episode should be Gone with the Wind. Welcome to America.
Welcome to America.
Indeed.
Where
we got some issues.
Yeah, but try to make it pretty, because I don't like being uncomfortable. Yay.
And that's not the last time we'll talk about that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Certainly not.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
I mean, are you specifically referencing...
I'm thinking about Do the Right Thing.
Yeah. Okay.
I can't stop thinking about Do the Right Thing. Sorry.
No, I
watched it a few days ago.
It
is on the list.
Okay.
Thank goodness. Boy, that's going to be a fun / rough time.
Doing the report on that one.
I
I
don't
was
recall.
just looking
Might
at
be.
the list. What year was that?
That was 89.
1989.
That's something that's been really weird with this podcast, is that like it's definitely already helped me like get all of the like years. I used to be really bad with dates.
Me too.
Yeah.
But like I've got so many movies lodged in my head, like I'm Wikipedia of what year it came out, and like doing the math of when it was filmed, and I'm already getting better at like adjusting for inflation like a little bit, like just in my head,
getting the estimates. Yeah, makes sense.
I mean that that's positive.
You are reporting on Do the Right Thing.
Oh boy,
fun.
I will do my best.
It's going to be a really interesting time for sure.
That's definitely the report I'm going to spend this full 3 weeks on.
Maybe going to be the single most topical movie, except by the point we get to it, who knows what things will be like. I don't know.
Okay.
If we were to cover it like right now, like holy crap,
we really like those problems will still.
Oh yeah, no, like I don't think if things will be
happening.
better, but like you know, maybe it'll be worse. I don't know.
Like politically, where everything will be and.
Right. Well, like I mean, I don't think just because of obviously we should probably put like politics alert at the beginning of this episode.
Oh man, it's going to be unavoidable.
I don't think that like all the shootings are just going to stop now because of protests.
Absolutely
like,
not.
It's
obviously it's done. Going. It's done nothing but continue. We just see more and more coming out every day. It feels like. So, yeah, it's not
this
a good
is just,
time.
at the moment, a reality.
Yeah.
And it's
Very
not
relevant.
something that can never go away, but it's something that at the moment doesn't look like it is.
Yeah, it feels very enabled. And anyway,
Mm-hmm.
we'll talk about that when we get to it. Anyway, racism is bad. Black Lives Matter, etc., etc.
Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
But yeah. Oh, this is a rough movie to talk about.
Yeah.
Oh no. I'm looking forward to. Oh wait, never mind. I was like, I'm looking forward to more lighthearted films like next week when we're covering The Great
That's
Dictator.
Right. Oh man.
Instantly, we're gonna go straight into talking about Hitler.
We get
might
Fantasia.
Be funny, though.
We do get Fantasia.
Fantasia
That'll
will
be fun.
Yeah, I like Fantasia. That's actually so that one will have David Hand doing some of it, but there's like a trillion directors, so I didn't also count that. So there are the two exceptions on the list. Of like, technically directors had their hands in two different films. You know, Victor Fleming with Wizard of Oz and Gone with the Wind, and then David Hand with Snow White.
Right, there's so
Fantasia.
many.
But Fantasia, I think, is the one that's gonna hold up.
Yeah,
I think so too. I'm excited for that one.
Really cool to see. I've never seen that
gorgeous.
still. So
wait, Great Dictator, Fantasia, and who else? Or which other one?
I can't remember.
I've been looking at it. I was trying to. No, I think that's the week
That's
after.
the
Hold
next
on,
week,
I have
'cause
it. I
then
have it
we'll
here.
do-
Citizen Kane.
Citizen Kane?
Oh yes.
Nice.
Finally,
then
I'll finally see it.
Maltese Falcon, Casablanca.
Yeah.
I mean, not that we're
it's
banking
It's
these.
Children
We're
of
not doing
Paradise.
this.
No,
we
wait,
don't
wait,
don't do
We
that.
would never do that.
No.
I'm sorry. Like,
Lies.
we've just been talking about like what the next month looked like. You
Right.
know, like
Yeah.
what are the next things?
Sorry for that
It'll be fun.
misconception.
Yeah. If you really thought that we were like banking episodes, then
You're
honestly, just
silly.
I know it's already like pretty much near the end of the podcast, but just turn it off now. This podcast isn't for you. If you're the kind of person that would assume that we would be banking things,
I'm gonna need you to go home.
Never.
I'm gonna need you to leave.
Bye.
All right.
Good
That's pretty much
riddance.
all I have to say.
Good riddance.
Unless
Fuck
we
Woody
wanted
Allen.
to try and dig in anywhere else.
Ryan Gosling fucks.
Sorry,
Ryan
it
Gosling
was
could have
kinda
saved
short.
this movie.
Could he?
Yeah, if he acted in it.
If he acted in it and just forced them to rewrite it
Yeah, like just I think
and
he
make a
just
different movie.
should have like come in and like called out all the characters on all their bullshit.
I think what he really should have done was invent a time machine, go back in time, you know, fix all of racism, fix Jim Crow laws, so this movie would not need to continue to exist in our public consciousness because it didn't exist to begin with, because racism had been fixed.
Perfect.
And I think he
We
could
did it,
do it.
boys.
Thank you, Ryan Gosling.
Racism is no more.
And it's all thanks to Ryan Gosling.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Actually, maybe that doesn't make the most sense. What we really need is a white guy to go back in
Right.
time and fix all of racism.
Oh
for
no,
us.
but it's like the one good white guy.
Yeah, we can say like, you know,
Yeah.
white guys suck, but Ryan Gosling fuck.
Oh. I am down with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, this really is an E-rated podcast, isn't it?
It is.
I'm always I'm continually
Listen
shocked.
with
and just
your
like,
children.
Yeah, it really did
Oops.
turn into this, didn't it?
It's a little rough.
Yeah.
It's okay
Hey,
though.
hey,
It's
we're
not
making
bad.
new,
Sorry, I made it sound
hashtags.
bad.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be the next hashtag.
Yeah.
Hit us up on Instagram and Twitter at movie.
Why
Wow, I
Movie
cannot English today.
Movie
All my words are slurring together. At Movie Overload Pod on Instagram. At Movie Overload _ on Twitter.
and movieoverloadpod.com, movieoverloadpod@gmail.com.
Yeah.
And let's see, we got, obviously, check us out on the YouTubes. I think our channel name at the moment is just Movie Overload.
I think so.
So you might want to change that to Movie Overload Podcast.
Yeah, we'll probably do that to make
Oh,
it more
gosh.
easily discoverable. If you put in
Yeah.
Movie Overload plus a movie title,
That,
if you know what you're looking
right.
for.
Right. If you're like, Movie Overload,
Or
Metropolis. I don't
if
know why
you-
Metropolis in my head is like the episode of the podcast,
Maybe.
the representative episode, because
Yeah.
it really isn't. But like,
It's about to be.
it was
time.
interesting.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. Yeah, I was going to say that hasn't even come out yet.
Well,
by the time we're recording this.
Well,
They'll
we're not
have it.
making
Yeah,
them,
it
so
has
actually
come out yet.
You're right. You're right.
Hunter, go away. Take your apples and
Created
go.
A paradox. Oh, God. Fine.
That was
Gather-
the, that's the
apple
sound
gathering
gathering your
noises.
apples makes.
Anyway. Yeah. That's all the time we have for today.
Yeah,
Indeed.
indeed.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for listening.
You're okay, I guess.
Sorry, it was a dour experience, but it was
Yeah.
I think an important
A few
experience.
weeks
I
of
agree.
rough
Would you guys
times
say
with
that it belongs
movies.
on this list?
Yes.
I would.
If only for the just historical importance and just it being notable, because who cares at this scale about movies this long, and obviously the amount of like money and made and the cultural weight that it has.
Yeah.
Whether or not it deserves
and
that
cinematography,
it's
though.
It's good.
There are various ways in which I think it does deserve, even if I personally am really not a fan.
Right. Like
Overall.
I don't think I'll ever watch it again, but I do think that it is a movie that
it's notable.
Should be watched.
Yes.
And I do think that it has its place on this list, but I think the more we've been going through the list, the more I've realized the reason why things belong on this list is not the reason why I originally unwittingly just kind of stuck them on there based off of other lists, amalgamating stuff. Like they belong for reasons other than being the cinematic best. You know what I mean? Like some things belong on there because it really tells you something about our society. It really tells you something about the history of our country and just the progression of the art form in general. Yeah.
It's definitely good to have the actual perspective of watching these things instead of just being like, because like before I would just be like, oh yeah, Gone with the Wind is a good movie because I know it's a good movie.
It's a classic.
Just because it's just kind of ubiquitous. It's just out in culture and just you know about it, you hear
it's
about
an important
it, and how
movie.
it's a classic.
It may not be a good movie. It's hard to
and then you actually watch it and then it's like, it's a little more complicated than that. So
4 stars
it's good
hard to get
challenging.
Yeah, it's definitely a different perspective, which makes sense because actually watching the thing is important. So this has been good.
It's a weird murky thing, but I think it's been really interesting to have the amount of diversity in the episodes that we have had, and I don't know, I'm happy with the way that this podcast is going.
We are like over 10% of the way through the list now.
That's weird.
Yeah.
I think we're like 20.
A lot of work.
Oh wait, no, I lied. That's because I've seen other movies on the list.
I think this is our 11th movie.
Yeah, I think I'm at almost 60% of like having seen 60% of the movies.
Oh wow!
So.
I was only at like 26%.
I'm not sure, right?
I've just logged a ton of movies. Like, I have problems.
I'm at 47.
So I made the list. So
true. This is true.
Oh yeah. By the way, we've got the list on our website.
Yes.
So
if you want to follow along and see where we're going,
give us a rating.
Yeah.
On iTunes, that'd be rad. Tell your friends.
Indeed.
We got also our stuff on YouTube. We already said that.
Yeah, I think we plugged everything already.
Yep.
We're just kind of rambling on. Look forward to next week with The Great Dictator, a not political movie at all, but very fun times.
All right.
Oh,
thank you guys for
I just
listening.
remembered something that is a funny, relevant piece of trivia to that, which I wanted to bring up, and I forgot. With the casting of Scarlet, there was basically, it was between two people. It was between Vivien Leigh and Paulette Goddard. Were like tied for the spot. And Paulette Goddard didn't work out because she was married to Charlie Chaplin, and apparently that was kind of controversial. So she was ousted, and Vivien Leigh got the part. And I did not look into the details of that. I really should have.
Yeah.
Because I don't know why that would be controversial. Maybe we'll talk about that on the next episode as an addendum.
That's
but
interesting.
That was mentioned, and I thought that was very weird. I was like, why would being married to Charlie Chaplin be enough to get you not cast for a part?
Yeah,
like
no, I'll definitely look into it. I don't want to see. It's required for this podcast. I don't want to see my cinematic heroes get decimated by my own research.
Hey, maybe
I will do it.
Maybe it's the kind of thing that like you look at it now and be like, oh, that's dumb.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, I know that he had some relationships that like he was not married, but was in these like very public relationships with people in a way that lots of people did think was very inappropriate at the time.
Okay.
So it could be like that he had this kind of like reputation of being like,
right. Oh, like, oh, you're hanging out with that guy?
Right.
Okay.
That immoral guy who, maybe like Edna Purviance was like someone who worked with on a lot of his films. Yeah. And people like had this idea of like, I've heard people talk about her being like, oh yeah, Charlie Chaplin's wife, and then people are like, no, never married. Like they were just in a very public relationship for a very long time.
It's the same thing, yeah.
And that was kind of scandalous. So
I see.
It could be something like that.
Yeah. I don't know.
But at the same time, also could be other things.
Yeah.
Who knows? And I'm scared to find out what I will.
It's going to be okay.
But yeah, looking forward to that episode. Yep. Thank you guys for listening, as we say at the end of every episode of this very Movie Overload podcast.
I feel like I remember I saw one, and I forgot what it was. I could just cop out and use the the one that everyone knows, but I feel like that would be cheating.
Do it.
No.
That was the sound of Vivian or of Scarlet slapping a man again.
Go. Or another woman.
Or another woman.
Or,
that's the quote. Is
or
just
trying to slap a man and falling down the stairs.
That was brutal.
Just hilarious. Sorry, I laughed at a lot of really bad things.
Do you have any lines from her dad? Does he say something weird like,
get you person.
Something about land.
My land. Oh, because he's Irish.
Yeah.
His would have been fun. Maybe it'll get edited in later. He was pretty Irish and dead.
Say something about me Lucky Charms.
We didn't finish summarizing the movie. That's okay, though. Everyone dies. That's kind of the end of the summary.
Yeah.
It is sad.
Which is actually sort of true. Like half the people die. Anyway, that's all I have to say.
It doesn't.
It's weird.
I mean, watch it. It doesn't matter.
No.
Watch it. I don't know.
It's whatever. Anyway, that's it. We're going.
We're gone.
Get out of here.
Bye-bye.
This podcast is gone with the wind.